We're going to just start with the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'm sorry my musicians have to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Ooh, this is very exciting. All right.
All righty.
Okay, so we're going to start. Yeah, we're going to start with Denise and Lisa with the Coordinating Council.
Yeah. Hi, can you hear us all? Yes. We're good? Good evening. On behalf of the North Shore Coordinating Council of Parent Organizations, we welcome you to this special Board of Education meeting. Tonight, we are here to recognize the efforts of a group of very special and dedicated community members, our Board of Trustees. Each year, School Board Recognition Week is observed by more than 700 school districts across New York State. The members of our Board of Education are dedicated to children, learning, and our community. They devote many hours of service to public education as they continually strive for improvement, excellence, and progress in education. They recognize that all children can be successful and lifelong learners, especially when education is tailored to the individual needs of the child. Our trustees work tirelessly to ensure that the students of the North Shore schools are afforded the most appropriate educational and extracurricular resources and opportunities for enrichment available, so that they may develop as lifelong scholars, artists, athletes, musicians, and caring, engaged citizens of the world.
The 7 members of the Board of Education serve on a voluntary basis and are elected by the community to 3-year terms. They attend many meetings a month at which they formulate policy, approve district spending and hiring, consider new and innovative programs, guide and provide direction and counsel to a variety of district committees, and respond to the requests and concerns of district parents and residents. Our school board members are strong advocates for public education. They are responsible for responding to the educational needs of the communities they serve. They create an educational vision with the primary goal of building the best educational foundation for our students, while mindful of financial constraints, Department of Education mandates and regulation, and the broader economic and political climate. On behalf of the students, staff, parent organizations, and community members, we thank you for your seemingly endless time, energy, and ideas that are always focused on moving our district forward.
So tonight we have some fun entertainments planned so that our trustees can actually enjoy and see the fruits of their labors, which are our students. So to start the evening, Mr. Domingo is going to direct our high school chamber orchestra.
We're Celeste Yu from the Chamber Orchestra. Tonight we're going to be playing City of Stars from La La Land by Justin Hurwitz and Eleanor Rigby by John Lennon and Paul McCartney.
Thank you so much. That was absolutely beautiful. A beautiful thank you.
I think Lennon and McCartney would be very proud of that. I really do.
too.
I really do. I just wanted to point out that the music department is such a tight community that Mr. Berry brought his vocal ensemble here to support their musical colleagues, which I think is it just really says something about the music community here. So thank you, Mr. Domingo.
Thank you. And now we would like to ask if our wonderful elementary school principals would stand with their students next to the gifts that they wish to unveil for our Board of Education trustees.
So we have to explain this. Every year, Denise and I, for the past couple of years, struggle to figure out something really cool and unique to present to you guys. And Denise came up with something really neat, and I agreed. I'm not going to take full credit for it. It was really the germ of her idea. So we always we believe that this particular evening really should showcase the students of North Shore and showcase K through 12. So you've seen 9 through 12. You've gotten a taste, and the elementary school kids have just done an amazing job. So who do you want? You want to go alphabetical order by principal or school or
Principal,
left to right?
Principal Nimmo with Glenhead. Would, what is that? Oh,
What I love about Glenhead
Glenhead.
School.
how beautiful.
Thank you for making the school the best it can be.
That's beautiful.
I like Glenhead School too.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
Who the kids are.
Ms. Nimmo, could you please introduce the children?
This is Manuela Armada. She's a third grade student, and a future bassist. She's looking at the orchestra. We have Lillian Trotter, who is in second grade, and future reader, writer, and mathematician. She is great.
Lovely. Thank you so much. The principals were kind enough to bring the canvases to the school, and their arts departments helped in letting the kids for over a week take part in writing their own personal expressions of what they love about their elementary schools. Principal Binder?
I have the Montes here. I have Jacqueline, Juliet, Abigail, and Victoria. I have Benjamin. Two sets of twins. The same
Yeah.
Benjamin Leonard. I have Mason and Blake Bowen, and I have the Ludmars, Jacob and Lisa. You probably know them. Let's want to help me close off. I'll hold it.
Ooh.
Oh, how pretty.
Wow.
Want to say anything about what they look like?
I wish we had a microphone
Yeah.
over there.
Girls, anything? Benjamin? Say thank you to the board members, right? Thank you.
All my teachers are really nice.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Zublionis?
So we have 3 fifth graders with us this evening from Seacliff School, Mr. Benjamin Bush, Miss Olivia Shank, and Miss Riley Keeler. You guys want to come up?
Oh, how lovely.
And students have prepared something with our teacher, Mr. Leonard.
On this canvas, feature symbols,
Thank you so much to the elementary schools for their beautiful, wonderful, thoughtful gift that they worked on so hard. And now, is Ms. Paolillo-Schiano here?
Hi. What have you got for us?
My advanced fashion students made little presents for the board members. They made tie bags out of ties.
Oh,
and the
wow.
leftover part that wasn't used in the tie bag went into bow ties. There's 4 tie bags and there's like 5 bow ties. So choose what you would like.
Oh.
The student's name is on there. I apologize for the I did the board members.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Choose what you like.
Thank you so much. Here, we'll hold them over here.
This is from Advanced Fashion, and my culinary students
These are so
department.
cool.
They made baked goods as well as the middle school.
Oh,
You can go to
fantastic.
What baked goods we made for you.
Hi, we made Jennifer Harris on Advanced Culinary, and we made chocolate chip scones, cat nut cookies, and oatmeal chocolate chip cookies. And in class, we've been learning about like different measurement skills and how to cook things with proper techniques to make skills. And the other half of the year, we'll also be learning about work and how to cook different recipes and we'll cook. I hope that
Thank you. Thank you so
And,
much.
and now, if Ms. Miranda,
Oh, here she is.
oh, here's Ms. Miranda.
Hi, everybody. I'm Miss Miranda, and this is, or Stacy Miranda. This is Ashna Gibbons. She's one of my all-star bakers in the baking elective, 8th grade baking elective. My class, I believe, was truly honored to be able to bake for you tonight. They chose their recipes with pride and confidence after testing a few recipes. What you will see on the table is a representation in the middle school in that it incorporates other disciplines and the SVOs in everything that they do. They worked cooperatively to make these cake stands for you and the goods that are on them. So they used they repurposed materials in order to make the cake stands. They used aluminum cans and paper plates. They also worked together to write and create the signs that go with their baked goods. They even named one of the cookies. I made them make an alternative chocolate chip cookie, and they decided it was a healthy cookie with a twist. And I'll let you figure out what that is when you go over there, because they wrote the sign. It is the Twisted Chocolate Chip Cookie. Now that is forever the name I will be using in my class. While they are learning the principles of baking, they are expanding their minds and their palates to healthier alternatives, as well as some of those goodies that we learn portion control with, right? So you'll see 3 different baked goods: the Snickerdoodles, which are a cinnamon sugar cookie, pumpkin chocolate chip muffin bites, little mini muffins, and the Twisted chocolate chip cookies. And Ashna will be here if anybody has any questions for her as a student in the class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you.
sorry. I just wanted to say I just wanted to say thank you for all of your support in making these kind of experiences happen for our kids.
Oh,
It's time to eat.
okay.
Help yourselves.
Thank you. We're just going to take a short, quick recess, have some cookies, and we'll be right back. That's so sweet. So sweet. I'm taking one. I want this one. Lovely, lovely evening. I'm going to make them look at me so they know I'm talking about them. Lisa, Denise, thank you so much for putting this together. And I'm looking, I'll do what I do with my kids. Look at me, look at me, look at me. You see, that's what I do with my kids.
Don't forget to take your things.
Yes, I already took mine. So thank you all. Thank you to the students, to the faculty, to everyone that was involved. This was so lovely. We love what we do. it's a daunting task, but we love what we do, and we all have our hearts in the right place. Our students are amazing, and our faculty and staff and our administration and our new superintendent, we're just all blessed to have such a lovely, wonderful, strong, hardworking group. So thank you all for being part of this. Thank you to my fellow trustees for the hours that you all put in for us. And for working together, and we'll move on. Betty, can you let the record show that we met in executive session to discuss the matters regarding collective negotiations pursuant to Article 14 of the Civil Service Law and discussions regarding proposed, pending, or current litigation? I'm going to suggest that we do the report from the SGO first, if you don't mind, so that we can let them go home and study. So,
Fire away.
fire away. I'm going to eat cookies.
Hello? No, it's not one. Yeah. Okay. So, SGO came to the CASA, which is the Coalition Against Substance Abuse, and we had a really good turnout. We had 14 members come, so that's more than we required, which is really good to see that everyone's kind of willing and would like to make a difference in our community in regards to substance abuse. And I think everyone really walked out of there motivated to spread the word about what we learned, especially the statistics, because they were kind of scary. Because I don't think we realized, I guess, you hear substance abuse, and I guess it's just kind of something you hear, but the statistics that we heard at CASA was kind of shocking. So everyone really walked out of there motivated to kind of spread the word and try to make a difference about substance abuse. And we're all looking forward to the next meeting. And one thing that was mentioned at the CASA meeting was the Narcan and how Narcan saved, I think it was 759 lives from drug overdoses, from overdosing. So as SGO, we're going to try to see if there's a class available to get certified with Narcan, and how maybe as SGO we can kind of take that upon ourselves or spread the word about kind of being certified with Narcan, so that, God forbid, anyone who's in that situation, we can help.
Continuing with Drug Awareness Week, today we also had a presentation with a healthcare professional from LICAD, and again, that was very informative with the strong statistics that we heard, and we felt that all our classmates left feeling motivated and felt affected.
And so the first shared decisions meeting was, I think it was last week, and SGO is part of the shared decisions meeting, so it's 4 of us from SGO, and we're really excited to kind of be part of the shared decisions meeting, because it's a way to kind of get ourselves more involved with the school and really make a positive impact on the school.
And lastly, we also want to give a shout out to the girls soccer team, because they're made it really far in playoffs so far, and they have one of their games tomorrow at 2:30 on the turf. Yes. And that's it.
Okay, thank you. I think, is it 4:30 on the turf?
2:30.
It's early. Why do we have a game at 2:30?
Because they need to, since it's playoffs, they have to have time for a double overtime and then potentially shootout, because it's kind of sudden death type thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
And, okay.
Yes.
Seems on. Right. No, but 2:30, school's not even out yet.
Yeah, they get let out early.
All right. Oh, don't start. Okay. Next subject. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the report from the superintendent.
Great. So you want me to tell them they have to wait until school is over? huh?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I'm not.
All right.
I can be curious, can't I?
Okay, that'll put a swift end to your Board of Ed recognition celebrations.
Yeah, and perhaps my candidacy
as well. And forget about your motherhood. Okay, so before we get started, I just wanted to, so Denise and Lisa, are you still here? So thank you so much for this. This was really, really, really so thoughtful and so terrific and so warm, and it was really terrific. It makes, to sit here as the, as the person responsible for leading this organization and watch this happen, I can't describe to you how humbling and kind of goosebumping it is. It's really, really wonderful. So thank you very, very much. The posters will find their ways back to the schools, but in the short term, we're going to have them displayed in the central office for a little while.
I was
so-
hoping we'd get a chance.
Yep.
Okay, great.
And then we'll get them back. We'll get them back to the three of you, so you can display them in the ways that you think are appropriate. So, so thank you for that. We have like such an extremely packed agenda tonight, so I'm going to keep this as brief as I can and keep this to the essentials. So I have finished my first round of learning walks with each of the 5 principals, and for those of you who don't know what they are, they're opportunities for me to tour schools with each principal, visit classrooms, talk about building goals and objectives, how the work plan for the year is situated and what's already happened, the current workflow, and then how things are situated to happen next. I can tell you that really good things are happening in these schools. Our principals are working with focus. Our teachers are wholly engaged with children. And in every single case, every class I went into, the purpose of the lesson has been clear without an explanation from the teacher. It's been really, really terrific. Most importantly, teachers and students are enjoying each other. And I am so incredibly encouraged by all of it and look forward to my next visits, which will be happening within the next few weeks in each of the schools. This morning, I held my first of 7 coffee and conversations with the superintendent. We had a really good turnout. There were probably 15, 20 people for 9 o'clock. Yeah, it was really terrific. The conversations were really thought-provoking. They were focused on the right priorities. They weren't, it wasn't all about. We talked about some real meaty issues that require some attention, including homework, wellness, social emotional learning, reducing stress, the importance of play, strong outcomes for our high school students, and then balancing accountability with good and purposeful teaching, learning, and then assessment practices that match those things. So my next meeting is on November 14th. If you missed this morning, please try to come to the next one. They're from 9 to 9:30 to 11-ish or more in my conference room. But I'm starting 4 evening conversations with me as well. Those are happening over the course of the year. There are 4 of them. So you'll get a postcard in the mail inviting you to those as well. There's no planned agenda. It's just a place for us to have a very organic conversation. There are a few of you here tonight that were here this morning, so thank you for coming. And really, I left there feeling very, very encouraged. And thank you, Sarah, for joining as well. It's nice to have you there.
Terrific conversation.
Our work towards further defining and understanding the SVOs is progressing well, and our administrators have been working to layer our own understanding so that they can expand the work with our teachers, our students, and our parents. And I want to very publicly thank Rob Klabicki for your really, truly outstanding leadership that you're bringing to that work. Thank you very much. As SGO presented, the CASA event was Monday evening, and it was simply outstanding. So well attended. Linda Ventura, who is a mom who lost her son Thomas to opiates, shared her story. And to say that it was powerful would not give it justice. Our new social worker, Risa Berg, was there, and she also presented on risk factors, and it was incredibly effective. If you haven't met her yet, you should. She's really wonderful. This issue This is an issue that requires our steadfast attention of the entire community, and I'll do all that I can to support it. I extend my gratitude to CASA for organizing the event, and I wish them well with momentum. And the key takeaway for me was that we need to start these conversations with children much sooner than we think we do. The statistics were truly alarming. And we'll be focused as a school system on identifying appropriate ways to do exactly that. So tonight, we have Board Recognition Night, and I do want to thank Coordinating Council and our students and our principals for really what was such a lovely event. I also want to thank the board for your very hard work and your partnership with me. These are not easy jobs that you have. They're time-consuming, they require a lot of preparation, and we are really, really fortunate to work in a community where our trustees are so focused on ensuring strong outcomes for students and supporting staff in really purposeful and appropriate ways. We also have the Legislative Action Committee. LAC is here tonight to provide an update on their work. This is a vitally important committee that works at the forefront of our advocacy works within the district and the community. So thank you to Deb McDermott for your leadership and the rest of the committee. There are several of you who are here tonight for your good thinking and your focused work. I look forward to moving that work along with you. Our elementary principals and directors are here tonight to speak to the board about student achievement at the elementary level. This is the first in a series of 3, so we'll start with elementary. In a month, we'll move on to middle level, and then I think 3 weeks after that, we'll move on to the high school. In addition to assessment data, we will be exploring achievement of the whole child through the lenses of the SVOs and building-based work. It's important to recognize that achievement is A, multidimensional, and B, complex, and it should include multiple measures to capture a more complete picture. So I hope that you will see that come to light more vibrantly tonight. To those of you who have prepared the presentation, I've seen it. You've done really excellent work synthesizing this. A lot of information, and I'm really proud of what you've accomplished thus far, and I'm exceedingly optimistic about what lies ahead in our work together, so thank you all very much. As follow-ups to previous meetings, the Athletic Participation Attendance Policy Committee, that is a mouthful, will be reconvened, and we'll have our first meeting in November. I'll be co-chairing that committee with Don Lang, and we have a wide range of stakeholders on tap to assess the policy. I'll report back on progress at an upcoming meeting, but just as a follow-up to a question that had arisen, the policy does not apply to middle schoolers. That I was able to confirm. I'll be working with the buildings to collect information to share with CASA regarding evidence of programming and instructional practices that relate to substance use and abuse. We'll have that information back, I'd say, within the next 2 weeks. Okay? And then finally, RFPs for legal services are due to Olivia's office on Wednesday, November 1st. So to the extent that schedules can come together at the board level, we'll need to be prepared to begin the evaluation of those RFPs that were submitted hopefully during the week of November 6th, but we can do that offline.
We'll get a date.
All right, that'd be great.
Yep.
So that's all I've got.
Thank you.
But thank you all very much.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Let's move to the approval of the minutes from the October 12th, 2017 meeting. Could I have a motion?
Motion.
And I have a second. Are there any comments or questions? All in favor? Thank you. And now we'll move on to our, what did I forget? Oh, the town meeting. I forgot about that part. I'm so sorry. Okay, so this is our town meeting format, which is a little different in that we welcome you to come and talk about anything, but we do that with every meeting. So we welcome you to come and if you have questions or comments or something you'd like to talk to us about, the microphone is there. Please tell us your name and town of resident. And that's it. Don't all rush to the microphone. And yeah, you got to go over there. I mean, we all know who you are, but you got to go over there so we can hear you. And so it's on tape.
Right, so you can be on the video.
Yes.
Response to a question that arose at the last meeting, and I find that I thought maybe it would be helpful if we considered asking regarding CASA and our role and the information that they have. I think there might be a little confusion about what exactly each building, what is incorporated already into the curriculum as of now and over the last 3 years, and what the parent organizations over the last few years, what speakers they have and what they plan to do. And this type of information is so easily presented to them. So I think that perhaps to consider making a formal request so that there is the understanding of what is already in place to help take the next step
You just said, right,
smoother
I
and
think Peter,
quicker.
Dr. Drizzo is already in motion to do that, to put together. I'll let you speak to exactly how you're going to.
Yep. So that's something that I'm going to be asking the principals and to start to organize for me. I wanted to let them get through tonight. No, because they don't even know I'm about to ask for it, right? So you can look for my email, right? But it's coming.
Denise, I also have a request into the high school PTO to talk about exactly the issues so we can not duplicate services.
The middle school as well.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
I was starting with the high school, but absolutely, because I think that's so important. We have limited time, so if we can put our heads together and you do this piece, we do this piece.
May I just say that because boards change, it's a good thing to ask perhaps for, let's say, the last few years, because sometimes new boards aren't even aware of speakers that were there 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Agreed.
So that's something.
Agreed. We'll make every effort to do that.
So, Joanna, one of the things that I was reflecting upon after going to Monday night's speaker, and then hearing we're so fortunate to have Risa be on our staff now, and with her wealth of experience with this. At the last board meeting, we had community members from CASA asking us what we do, right? And that's what we're all talking about. What do we do for students so that so that CASA doesn't duplicate, right? But I think that having been around on the board for 6 years, having been in the community for 12 years, having many, many friends that grew up here, I think that we know now that there needs to be a education to parents and to adults in the community about changing how I'm trying to use the right words because we have a culture that's a culture of acceptance of use, alcohol and drug use, maybe not drug use, but alcohol use. We have a culture of acceptance of it. And I think that you guys could hit the ground running with that right away, because I mean, we do reach parents, but not in the way that peers can reach parents.
This is one of the areas that the board has consistently identified as wanting to provide parent university, if you will, but training on a whole host of how to talk to your children about certain issues, the issues of stress, the issues of mindfulness, how you could be role modeling. So those are things that are in our plans. I think what is happening now is that there's a shift of energy from the board to the specific sectors, because that's where everything has to cook. So those smaller groups are coming to us with very specific ideas, and what we're going to try to do is either help them find speakers, make arrangements, get places to have their events. So we're really, I think, have shifted that energy right now, but that is absolutely a priority that has been identified in every single meeting that we've had since last January.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
And I just,
Sure.
I remember the night we approved Risa Berg's appointment to the school district, and I think I said then early on in last January when I started to go out and learn about coalitions, Risa Berg was one of the first people I met with. And I was so impressed with her intelligence, the way she articulated things. She is so knowledgeable. She is the best find that this district could have
For that position, for a
discovered
social worker.
at this time with what is going on. So kudos to everybody who was in part of that process.
She
Just-
really
she's a
reached.
very special woman.
She reached those students that were in the room on Monday evening. There was the SGO, as they said, they had about 14 or 15 students there. And my son and my daughter were there, and she really was able to reach those kids, and to know that she's in the building every day and able to reach the kids is really, you're right. We are very
She's
fortunate.
a very, very talented woman.
Dave had a comment.
Just really briefly, I agree that Risa was fantastic. Of the many points in her presentation that really stood with me, as a parent of younger kids, the one that stood out for me was the trajectory of abuse, and that it starts earlier, and that while the first age of involvement with kids in substance abuse used to be 13, 14, they now said it's 11 years old. I have a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old, so the first thing I did was go home. We pretended the charade of them actually being sleeping was not the charade, and they were clearly up. And we had a very frank talk about that. And I was going to bring this up earlier because we have all 3 elementary school leaders here tonight, so I was going to bring it up later, but we're talking about it now. I just think that needs to be thought about as this is not a high school problem, this is not a middle school problem, this is not just a community problem, it's not a graduate problem. It starts at a very, very young age. And that's a delicate balance, a delicate challenge to be able to handle, but let's just make sure we're not avoiding it because it's thorny.
Correct.
Okay, and kudos to you for going home and speaking to your children
right.
about that night.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, so we're going to move on to the report on student achievement from the elementary schools, and I will hand it over to Peter, who will hand it over.
So, as I talked a couple of minutes ago, when we talk about achievement, we often talk about achievement sort of broadly in terms of test data. That's how a lot of folks are understanding it in the world, and public education has become somewhat more reliant upon it in the aggregate than it needs to be and the way it should be. But it does play a role in what we do, and we should be using this to inform instruction. So we do that. So we have our principals here and our directors, Deborah Small and Carol Ann Smythe, and Dr. Z, Chris Ciplionis, and Bridget Finder, and Lori Nimmo. There you are. And the way we've structured this is that the presentation will begin with an overview of the grades 3 through 5 assessments in ELA and mathematics, and then what can be learned from that to inform instruction. And then from there, we'll move on to what we consider to be some of the more qualitative pieces of how we measure achievement, and each of the building principals will give you some context around what that looks like at Glen Head and Glenwood Landing and Seacliff. So I'm going to turn this over to you guys and let you take it away.
I can see. I don't know if they can see. I can see fine, although I would like to get out of this breeze that's blowing down like that.
So there are some video components to this at the end, so if you feel like you're better situated somewhere else, then please do that.
Okay, so Dr. Giarrizzo introduced the elementary team. I'm Bridget Finder, Carol Smythe, Chris Zublionis, Lori Nimmo, and Deborah Small. We're all here tonight. Thank you for the opportunity to present. We've spent the last few years developing our students' understandings of the SVOs and supporting teachers in explicitly teaching and integrating them into their curriculum. Tonight, we plan to provide you with evidence of student achievement through standardized test results, the shared valued outcomes, and a quick glimpse into the work at each building. We're going to start with Dr. Smythe.
Thank you. Information from the range of indicators in our math assessment system suggests that our students continue to grow as mathematical thinkers and problem solvers. This is a result in part of our teachers' dedication and embrace of our approach to instruction. There are opportunities for incredibly high quality professional development with Dr. Yeet Bonhar, thank you for that, because of the impact he's had on our teachers with our work around Singapore Math and Math in Focus, and our attention to early intervention. This evening I'm going to show you results from the STAR assessment and the New York State assessments. First, I'm going to start with the STAR assessment. The STAR assessment is a research-based norm-referenced, computer-adaptive testing system that we use with our first and second grade students to provide information about each student's progress in math, particularly with respect to content knowledge and skill proficiency. As you can see, most of our students are scoring at or above grade level. But more importantly, this instrument provides us information about students' growth. Snapshots of the performance of our current second grade cohort from fall of last year and the fall of this year indicate many of our students have shown significant improvement, with many fewer students performing below grade level and more students achieving above grade level. We use this data to really inform each individual student's growth. Now I'm going to move on to the state test scores. So as you can see, we had a significant number of students who opted out, between 31 and 37% for the math assessments, and the forgotten science assessment, 19% of the students opted out of. That really limits some of the conclusions we can draw from this data. But as you can see, between 80 and 83% of our students achieved proficiency, which is a score of 3 or 4 on the math assessments. 97% of our students achieved a score of 3 or 4 on the science assessment. Taking a turn to look at the mastery of the students' performance, between 45 and 52% of the students who took the test achieved a score of mastery, the highest score, which is a 4 on the assessment. And 77% of our students achieved mastery on the science assessment. As we look at longitudinal trends, we're going to see that over time, we've shown steady but slow progress increases in both the proficiency rates and the mastery rates on the assessment. So here's our third grade. You can see the proficiency rates and the mastery rates over time. So that's from 2013, the year of implementation of Common Core, till last spring. Our fourth grade scores, proficiency and mastery. Our fifth grade scores, again, proficiency and mastery. And finally, our science scores, which have been consistently high and strong, proficiency and mastery. As we look at comparisons to other districts, our students perform very well compared to the county average, and among the highest with respect to our local surrounding districts. So if we look at our third grade scores, the light blue is the Nassau County average. That's all the way on the left. The dark blue is North Shore, and those are our 10 surrounding districts. So as you can see, our students perform among the top. Similarly with fourth grade, again, the light blue is the Nassau County average. We are the dark blue. And finally, our fifth grade scores. So we continue to perform among the top with respect to our neighboring districts. We use the data really, again, given that opt-out rate, to look at what we could learn to improve our program. In terms of strengths, our students show very strong performance with respect to our content domains. There's an average gap of 11%. The gap compares our North Shore students to the Nassau County average. So a gap of 11% indicates that on average across the assessments, our students perform on each item 11% higher than the county average. Particular areas of strength for us have been numbers and operations and fractions. And here to give you a sense is a sample item from the third grade test. Operations and algebraic thinking, a sample item from the fourth grade test. And finally, numbers and operations and base 10. And here is a decimal sample item from the fifth grade test. So again, across the content domains, our students are performing very, very well. As we think about areas of progress, we're particularly proud of the work we've been doing around problem solving. We're proud of it because it's a really important area. Problem solving is at the heart of our philosophy of math learning. And we've put a lot of work into our students' work with problem solving. So if you look here, this compares the performance of our students across 1 year, from the spring of 2016 to 2017. And you'll see an increase in the percentage of points our students are achieving on constructed response problem solving items, and also a more positive gap with respect to Nassau County. So our work is paying off, and we're really showing growth with respect to problem solving. Now, there are two areas of problem solving. The first is application, and those kind of items require students to apply what they're learning in familiar context. Here is an example of an application item from the 4th grade test. So it's a familiar context. Kids are working with fractions in a way that they're used to. Our kids continue to do extremely well with this type of an item. What we continue to work on, and again, we're showing very significant progress with this, is our work with novel items. Novel items require students to apply their learning in unfamiliar, more complex context. So this item requires kids to deal with thinking about an operating budget of a farm. So it really gets them to think in situations they haven't had exposure to. And it's a really good way for us to stretch their thinking as problem solvers. So again, this is an item we continue to items we continue to work on to make our kids better problem solvers, able to confront unfamiliar contexts. As we thought about areas of focus, one that really came up for us was the area of equity. So as we looked at the performance of subgroups of our population on these state tests, one thing that we noted, and this was reminiscent of the work that we saw in the equity study, was that if we compare the performance of kids who are identified as economically disadvantaged as compared to those who are not identified as economically disadvantaged, you'll see the economically disadvantaged classification results in lower performance. So over 80% as compared to a percentage in the 60s. Similarly, if we look at the mastery rates, it's a lower mastery rate as well. We also saw, and this also showed up in our equity study last year, that students who are identified as Hispanic or Latino performed at a much lower proficiency level than students who are identified as white. We didn't see as strong an effect with the mastery rate, but clearly this is something that we want to dive more deeply into and develop an approach to dealing with. A second area of focus for us continues to be our opportunities to provide differentiated challenge and enrichment to all of our students. Turning our attention to science for a moment, our students continue to perform exceptionally well on the science assessment. It isn't a very difficult assessment, but if we look at the average percentage correct across the items, 84%, there's an 84% percentage, and the gap is 3%. Again, most districts perform very well on this assessment, but this shows us that our students are learning the content of the science curriculum. An area of improvement over time for us has been our children's performance on the performance tasks of the science test. And that's indicated by the percentage of items that they're getting correct and also the gap. Again, this is a result of our increased emphasis on inquiry-based instruction. In terms of an area of focus for us, we really want to make sure that we're devoting our attention to all of the aspects of science and STEM. Our kids did well across items, but we noted that they did better on the items related to the living environment than the items related to the physical setting, which is earth science and physics. So you'll see they're both positive gaps, but the gap is higher in living environments, suggesting that the students did better on those items. So as we continue to work in our moving forward, we're going to use our opportunities around STEAM, both opportunities in the classroom and in our STEAM program, and our implementation of the next generation science standards to ensure that kids have opportunities across all of the science disciplines. Again, we have them, but we want to ensure that kids have exposure to all of them. So now I'm going to turn this over to Mrs. Small.
The next part of our presentation will focus on the English language arts scores in the context of neighboring districts, of growth over time, and of areas of strength, of progress, and for future focus. These are the scores here. You can see in purple are the percentage of students who are opting out, which was as high as 4 out of 10 students in 5th grade. So as we discuss it, we need to recognize that not all of our children are included in the data. On the far right-hand side, in green, You can see the proficiency rates, that's for the students who scored at levels 3 or 4 on the state test. In context of surrounding districts, we're doing very well. Out of 53 Nassau districts, we were in the top 5th for all of our grade levels. This is our 3rd grade group, which was our highest. As you can see from that chart, we have in light blue on the far left, we have Nassau County. We have North Shore in North Shore maroon. And then we have the blue as the same group of surrounding districts to whom Carol compared our students. So we were within this group the 3rd highest and the 4th highest in Nassau County overall. We are right typical of our neighboring districts in 4th grade and in 5th grade as well. So we did very well. Looking over time for how our students have grown, in these graphs you can see in the blue, North Shore, and in the orange, Nassau County. So you can see that there's a general trend towards improvement in the percentage of students performing at a proficient level over time. This is 3rd grade, and 4th grade, and 5th grade. We wanted to look in particular at level 4, our students who are reaching mastery, because we're very concerned with making sure we continue to stretch our high-end students as well. So we took a look at that via a line graph, and over time you can see, if you compare from 2013 to 2017, you can see a general trend towards an increase in 3rd grade, in 4th grade, and in 5th grade as well. We belong to the data warehouse through Nassau BOCES, and they give us some great tools for analyzing how our students do. One thing they give us is a gap report that compares us with other districts, so we can break it down by standards, by specific questions. We also get an item analysis for each child, where we can examine each child's relative strengths in each area. From that, there's certain areas of strength I'd like to highlight. For one thing, our kids can write. There's 3 types of questions on the test. Some of them are multiple choice, some of them are short written answers, and some of them are essays, which are known as extended responses. Our students do extremely well on extended responses, surpassing the region by an average of 12.8% on those. When we look at it with the information via standards to see are there any standards where we're not teaching our kids as well, we look very good. Our curriculum is strong. There are no gaps in any of the standards. Our students perform well across all of them. There are some specific topics that I've listed there where our students perform extremely well. I'm not surprised, because those are areas that are well supported in our units of study and our students really delve into in our reading and writing workshops. The bottom one is of particular interest. I guess that's related to the writing, because our students are good at going back into the text to find details and examples that support points, whether it's a point that they're recognizing the author did via multiple choice, or a point that they're writing in their writing. We have some areas where we noticed some progress over time as well. I noted earlier that we've shown some improvement in our number of students reaching mastery at level 4. We also, between last year and this year, improved the number of our students who weren't only getting 3 out of 4 points of proficiency on the extended responses, but were getting that 4 for mastery in the extended responses. A couple of years ago, I stood in front of you, and when we did this report, I pointed out an area that was weak for us. Our students had been struggling at that point with questions that involved the words best and most. Take a look at these 2 examples. We have shown improvement in those, and what we've done is we've just helped our children to be aware of thinking about what is good evidence. How do we compare when there's various examples that we could use to support an argument? Which one is the best to support it? So we've done that with them in their writing, we've done that with them in their reading, and while it's still an area where some of the questions occasionally trip up some of our children, we've definitely shown a lot of growth in that area. As Carol did, I looked through the subgroup analysis to see what was different between different groups in our community. And I noticed some progress over time in the gap between non-Hispanic whites and all other racial and ethnic groups. What I did, if you see that, the colors I used, I'm comparing the like cohorts. So here we have this group of 3rd graders. Last year is the group of, 2 years ago is the group of 4th graders last year. And same thing here for the 4th graders who became 5th graders. And interestingly, the gap was eliminated for this cohort, and in this one decreased from 22.2% to 8%. So that was nice progress. We also took a look at areas for focus, what can inform our instruction for future years. One type of question that was definitely more challenging for our students on this exam was the type of question like this. Paragraph 6 of the passage supports paragraph 3 by showing that. On the one hand, we can acknowledge that for 8, 9, and 10-year-olds, that's a very difficult type of question to work with, having to recognize the paragraphs and go back in and find those. But what I think not only for testing but for life is important is that our students recognize how part of a text contributes to the whole. So that is something that we are working with them on. That is part of our units of study. So we will continue to look at them with how does this graph contribute to the article? How does this particular scene contribute to what happens in the whole novel? And we will add in the piece of looking occasionally, taking a short story, marking it by paragraph, an article, marking it by paragraph, so we're familiar with looking at it by using the language of paragraphs as well. A very interesting area, which I hope will be different this year. The state is decreasing the number of days of testing from 3 days to 2. One thing we did notice is we had certain students who had difficulty. We would see them come out very strong in the first several questions of the test, the first few passages, and then suddenly it would fall off. They lost stamina. It was long for them. So we thought about, is there any way that we can address that in terms of our curriculum? One thing we realized is that when kids are working with nonfiction reading during school, of course nonfiction tends to be broken up into smaller sections, smaller chunks, smaller pieces, whereas fiction reading requires longer stamina. So we did look at the order of our units during the year and made sure that we are interspersing fiction units with nonfiction so that the kids continue to work on building their stamina for the fiction units. Another thing of interest is there was a gap in proficiency between girls and boys. Girls outperform our boys by an average of 14% this past year and 13% the year before. To some extent, some of that may be developmental. We know there are developmental differences in the rate of language development for children. But also, to the extent that we can control it, we want to make sure that we provide lots of interesting books that are of high interest to our boys as well as our girls, and that get our boys reading and doing a lot of reading on their own and fire them up about reading. The other areas that I want to discuss, just to talk about all of our children in general, we want to make sure that every child is supported and challenged appropriately. So we are focusing on each child's data over time from regular, daily classroom assessments and work that the teacher does in the context of instructing the students. In the younger grades, we look at how their errors as they read can help inform us what cueing systems are they using. Are they using all the aspects of meaning being picture clues, what makes sense in the story, of syntax, which is grammar, how the sentence sounds, what makes sense, and the visual cues, that's the phonics, what the word looks like, I know that this letter makes this sound. So we're breaking that down to help our students. In the upper grades, we have learning progressions, and we are taking some of our time with our staff developers from Teachers College to really look at how we can work with learning progressions to help our children see what they need to do next. So we might, a learning progression is like a rubric, but it's a little bit is added at each part in terms of what kids need to do. So we can look with the student and say, what are you doing now? And the student can say, here's where I am now, here's what I'm doing in this area. And then they can look at the next step of the progression and highlight for themselves and focus in their work, here's what I need to do next to get to the next level. So in that way we help to support every student to do his or her personal best. And finally, we want to make sure that for our students who are not doing as well, that our interventions for them are targeted and really focus in on the specific areas that each child needs in order to succeed. So those are some areas of focus that we will be focusing on. As we think about the academic areas in which we want our students to grow, we also spend a lot of time thinking about the whole child, and the remainder of our presentation will focus on what we do for our children in the area of shared valued outcomes.
So in terms of looking at student achievement as measured through the shared valued outcomes, last year all 3 elementary schools focused on embedding the SVOs in every aspect of the school day. It didn't matter what classroom students went to, whether it was a general ed class or special ed or specials, you would see evidence of the SVOs. We did that because we truly wanted our students to understand the meaning and the purpose of the SVOs. And then we wanted them also to be able to name and practice the skills and dispositions included with the indicators of the SVOs. And then eventually we wanted students to be able to practice and apply the SVOs in a variety of learning experiences that took place inside and outside of the classroom. In assessing students with respect to the SVOs, our focus was to engage students in the process of goal setting and reflecting. And you would see evidence of that in everything that students worked in. In each of the buildings, we had different learning experiences or opportunities for our students to practice and to apply those SVOs. In Glen Head, one that I would like to share with you and talk about in particular is I Innovate. A year earlier, all of our students worked in a program that had to do with invention convention. Students volunteered to solve a problem related to the school. They came up with a solution and they presented their solutions to all of us. Last year it was a little bit different. I Innovate included all students. We were concerned about equity of opportunity for all students. Instead of having students work on this at home, they did all of the work during the school day during a 2 to 3 week period. During that time we videotaped a lot of segments, and we're putting a big video together for you, but we spliced some segments for you to take a look to get a sense of what that looks like. And as I show you the video, what I'd like you to focus on is what the students are saying and how they're speaking the language of the SVOs.
They were encouraged to go out into the world and look at the world from a different lens. They were looking for problems that related to all living things. They were encouraged to talk to their parents, talk to relatives, talk to neighbors, and jot down all of the ideas that were generated from those conversations. That list then was used later on when the students had to go and choose one particular issue, imagined what could be, engaged in research, and planned an approach to develop a solution for their problem. This required multiple attempts at solving the problem, considering feedback from others, and incorporating suggestions in order to improve upon initial ideas. One goal was to teach students how much can be learned from failure and the importance of perseverance in the innovation process.
When I first heard about the living things about I Innovate, I thought, wow, how the whole school is going to be doing this. Everybody's going to participate on being an innovator these 2 weeks, and I was like, this is so exciting.
You can't just give up right away when you don't think that this is a good idea, like this isn't going to work, how am I going to get it together? You have to problem solve and think of another way to do it. The problem that my grandmother has with the walker is she can't get it over the carpets with the pegs that are on the bottom. My plan is to get skiers and then attach it to them to the wheels so it's easier for senior citizens and everyone who has a walker to get over.
So this is a dog wheelchair with dogs that don't have any back legs, so they'll use their front legs. I went at the Gold Coast Library with my class, and I read the book The Human Body, and I found this chapter that has your spinal cord and your spinal liquid. And it told me that if it gets damaged, you won't be able to move. So I made something that can protect it. Even though that we kept on failing, we kept on trying. Trying. Building is fun because then you get to improve and you can test it and see if it works. And if you don't get it right, you go back and then you just start planning it again. Then you try it again until your invention works. Then you can help all the animals and plants and people in the world.
The highlight of the process was when students shared their innovations with peers during the day and parents in the evening. They had an opportunity to describe their problems, explain their work, and demonstrate the effectiveness of their solutions.
Many people have a hard time for working and playing,
when it was too hot and too cold. So the solution is we invented this hat, and in the summer, you put a cold ice pack in a pouch at the top of the hat, and then it cools you off in summer. And in the winter, you would take a hot pack and you would put it in the pouch up top. Miss Goldberg, she tried it out when she was gardening, and she gave us feedback and said that it was very heavy because we used a bigger ice pack. We saw getting crickets and old bugs out of our houses because we don't like them in our houses because they make us really scared. The jellyfish went to water the plants, and it makes it quicker, and it collects rainwater, so when they have to water the plants, it just like that. The shield protects any type of plant from strong winds and from people who want to cut them down.
The last step was for students to reflect upon how they developed the skills of the shared didactics.
I need to be a problem solver. I need to be committed individual and not give up. And I also need to communicate with other people who have different ideas so they can give me feedback. We all wanted to fix this one problem really, really badly. And we put all of our minds to it. All of us persevered as hard as we could. We were all committed, and I think that was what allowed us to come up with this idea and what allowed us to be successful.
I think iInnovate really opens her experience to the fact that, yes, there's all kinds of problems in the world, and now she looks at it differently, that she has the power to possibly resolve things or address things or be resourceful and figure out how it could be addressed or how it could be fixed, and that she actually now could take the initiative to try and resolve it.
I saw a different little girl. She got home, she started researching right away, and I really saw her brain working in a different capacity. She was problem solving. She had 3 iPads open sometimes, looking up about ants and how they work and how they're good for our world. And she really got excited about the project.
Now I feel like I can solve almost any problem that comes my way. You could fail and fail and fail, but you'll always, one time, you'll try and you'll get it.
The little girl at the end took sneakers and put coils on the bottom so that when she steps, she wouldn't step on any ants and kill them. I just wanted to share one other little story. We had the fire engine came to Glen Head last week or 2 weeks ago as part of Fire Safety Month, and one of the firemen was describing to the children the fact that a fireman created a gadget to put on the hose nozzle to keep it safe for all the firemen. And before he explained that, he asked the students, how many of you ever invented anything? And every one of them raised their hand and said, we're innovators. So that was really, really sweet. Something I failed to mention before is that through this process, our students followed the engineering design process, and it really fits beautifully in with supporting the work of the SVOs, which I think is really important to take note of. What I'd like to do is just share with you the fact that we did administer a pre- and post-assessment to all of our students, and I want to take a look at just some of the reflections of things that they said. The question was, in what ways did you see yourself grow in the areas of the SVOs as a result of your involvement in iInnovate? You won't be able to read it, I don't think, but I'll just read some of them. One student who saw himself as a problem solver wrote, while we worked on our invention, we had to often improve upon our initial ideas. For example, we had to often use materials we did not plan on using for the purpose we used them for. We also had to research which materials we would need to create our invention, and then we had to experiment with the material to make sure it was the material that we needed. Another student saw himself as a thinker. I noticed when I was going through the process of building our model that my inner mind skills have been growing and my power of tinkering with objects has been increasing significantly, and how I can express myself with others and how I think of my ideas. I also noticed how my ideas are really helpful when I share them in different ways. And then the one that you just saw at the end of the video, which I really think is powerful. It taught me that every initial idea has room for improvement, and I learned that every idea needs to be challenged to be its best. And I think that was really powerful. I think iInnovate really did make a difference. And I do believe that the work we're doing is making a huge impact on our students. There's room for growth. We have a lot of room, but I'm really pleased with the progress we're making so far. Thank you.
At Glenwood Landing School, we've planned and developed authentic learning experiences at all grade levels, including the components listed on the frame up there. They provide meaningfulness, relevance, and authenticity to learning, and they assess the dispositions and skills of the shared valued outcomes along with the Common Core learning standards. Students are being held accountable for their language of the SVOs, and as evidenced in the rubrics, self-reflections, and goal setting to measure growth. For example, our second graders are in an inquiry as to whether balance is essential. We have an exploration of how emotions impact learning in our ILC classes, and an investigation of what innovations matter in fourth grade. Tonight, I'd like to highlight one specific grade level's integration of the shared valued outcomes and language acquisition into purposeful play. The kindergarten teachers last year were hoping to discover the benefits children get through play and how they could support the rigorous demands of the Common Core learning standards and the shared valued outcomes. Purposeful play was at the center of their learning, and through play, aimed to infuse learning through the shared valued outcomes. The values were taught through explicit instruction, in a workshop model, complete with a mini lesson, guided practice, and independent practice and share. So, for example, in the Imagination Center and Block Center, students learned how to incorporate communication and collaboration skills. They learned how to ask a friend to play, share their ideas, listen carefully, and combine ideas. They were required to reflect on their own learning and growth throughout the school year. And this video will just highlight, now it's in little voices, so you have to listen carefully, but if you can listen to the words and how articulate they are and how they speak about the shared valued outcomes and their own growth, you'll be really impressed.
Kindergartners live the shared valued outcomes each and every day through their play. These values are explicitly taught through the workshop model. In this way, students are able to acquire the language and behavior of each value, see it modeled, and then practice it in their own life through their play. Students then reflect on this learning so that it can be transferred to other parts of their life, both academic and social emotional. You mentioned that you were also resilient. What did you mean by that?
When you get tired of the things that go on, you have to say, I'm not gonna stay at that and no
So you work for Trinity? What do we call that?
I was on it. Yeah, and I'm flying away.
Hi, Ava. What do you have there?
I haven't done anything.
Oh, okay. What were you doing?
I was making a song with Donna. And Donna got one of his books. And his dad to just give me an idea. And I got an idea to write a song about how collaboration and communication.
Can you sing it?
Collaboration is together communication. It's coming together, they'll work it out. If it doesn't work, it's trying over again. Persistent, never give up.
And what are you working on at the Innovation Station? It's far. Well, how did you go about making this? Oh, wow. So you have all these people working together? What do you call that? Lots of people work together.
So throughout the whole year, the students had a pre-assessment in the beginning of the year. They really kind of charted their own growth. So this is just one student's example. This is his pre-assessment in the beginning. We asked, why do children play? And his answer was, because they will get bored. I think he meant because they are bored. And then in the middle of the year, November, he said that children play because it makes them happy. So there's a little growth there. And then at the end of the school year, he said, he listed all the things he learned in the play centers. He said, I learned how to be an engineer, I learned how to be a collaborator, a builder, a helper, a player, a problem solver. So obviously there's a lot of growth in the language acquisition and the writing, but in addition to that, they also really saw a lot of growth and reflection in the shared valued outcomes. Thank you.
This past year at Seacliff School, teachers were asked to choose a specific shared value of focus that had the greatest impact on their specific students' learning. Choices were common across each specific grade level or department. So for example, while grade 3 was focused on thinking, first grade teachers were focused on communication. Teachers were asked to outline the specific knowledge, skills, and understandings that would be assessed throughout the year. And then all teachers pre-assess their students in the specific aspects of the shared value and spend a majority of the year designing and implementing instruction that was explicit, routine-based, but also experiential. Different experiences were designed, some based on play, some based on performance and problem solving. But there was a consistent use when we did a survey and an audit at the end of the year and did a celebration, consistent use of powerful conversations and communication activities that engage students in different SVOs. Communication was an end in and of itself, but was also a vehicle for other student explorations into commitment to others, thinking and problem solving, and other SVOs. The following video will illustrate some of our students' experiences.
Grade 4 students engaged in a series of discussions about bullying and relational aggression and structured their conversations on a framework developed by a Patty Cohort 5 planning team from Seacliff School. This framework, known as RAISE, Response, Awareness, Impact, Self-Knowledge, and Empathy, was co-constructed with students to help them self-assess their specific areas of strength and need as it pertains to their peer relationships. Students practice these skills in a theater of the oppressed workshop style in which all students played the role of victim, perpetrator, and bystander in different real-life bullying scenarios. The following video demonstrates the short example of this type of discussion.
Keep going. Theater of the Oppressed is a dynamic way to address community problems. Born out of the work of Paulo Freire in the 1970s in Brazil, this style of theater was designed to help community members identify problems that they were facing and come up with unique and creative solutions. In Theater of the Oppressed, the audience are referred to as spect-actors instead of spectators, and they come up with strategies to try to solve conflict.
Throughout this social emotional learning journey, students kept a journal in which they reflected on different conversations and how they could apply new understandings to their peer relationships. Students also set and revised class and personal behavior goals and engaged in written conversation about their ideas with their teachers.
Well, what I learned is, since we already practiced that, I learned to how to handle situations like those when that happens, because we already went over that, so it just helped me know what to do when situations like that come up.
Research has shown that students who engage in purposefully structured issues discussions have a higher sense of civic efficacy and civic engagement. Seacliff School's grade 5 students engaged in a peer discussion about NFL player Colin Kaepernick's decision to not stand for the Pledge of Allegiance before it reached national prominence. This discussion followed a structured academic controversy format in which students explore and play out multiple perspectives on an issue and then create their own new perspective. The following video illustrates a very brief segment of this discussion.
How many little kids are watching football games? What is Colin Kaepernick's favorite player, and they're gonna follow what he does because Colin Kaepernick set in their examples. What if Colin Kaepernick set in these bad examples, and then when little kids start doing this? Who do you think our next generation of people are gonna be?
Well, you said that many people have fought for our flag.
Yeah.
Along with our flag comes our rights.
Yeah.
And what we have fought for is our rights to protest and fight for what we believe in.
grade 3 students focused on communicating about thinking and problem solving. Students engaged in a pre-assessment of their thinking skills at the beginning of the school year and then participated in a series of Socratic discussions about open-mindedness, curiosity, the organization of thinking, and perseverance in thinking. Students reflected on their current level of thinking immediately after these Socratics and then set goals in each specific area. At the end of the school year, students engaged in a thinking post-assessment that was parallel to the pre, so both students and teachers could assess their growth. Students transferred these thinking skills to a collaborative global issues research project known as One World, Many Lives. The following video illustrates how students were able to communicate about their thinking on raising awareness of such issues using visual text.
In art, the third graders have created their own visual text. They analyzed, described, and interpreted a variety of visual texts. They've been doing this in their classroom as well as in the art room. They observed artwork and discussed how artists make specific decisions about their work in order to capture their audience. They've interpreted the meaning of these through the use of photographs. They discussed questions such as, what is a visual text? How can art be used as an artist's voice? How do artists use their artwork to inform or create awareness? And what decisions does the artist make when creating their visual text? After students read a variety of visual texts, they then made decisions about the materials they were using to create their own in order to send their own clear message about their animal and global issue. These powerful images have a purpose: make our audience think about the subject matter, create questions, and spread awareness. They give each third grade artist their voice. As collaborators, the third graders plan their own artwork to do exactly the same.
Hello, my name is Nicoletta. Hi, I'm Leah. And this is our regional picture about deforestation. And we want people to feel to stand up and to try to stop deforestation. That we hope this picture will change and maybe affect those forests. And what we do is, do you want this to really happen to our world? Can this be caused by us?
In the 2017-2018 school year, Seacliff School will be synthesizing the experiences and instructional internal models of excellence highlighted in this video, and will create a new school-wide social action project known as Seacliff Saves the World.
That last clip was of our Seacliff singers who sing at the New York Islanders game every year. And what we've tried to do over the past few years is make performance a less formal part of students' learning in the classroom. So our communication focus really helped us do that last year. As you can see here, we have some reflections and the use of learning progressions, which several administrators have mentioned this evening, as a guide to locate where they are in their learning, in this case, say, I know that my behavior can affect others, and also to make goals, how, in this case, this one student will analyze how her thoughts and emotions affect her behavior and her relationships. This is a first grade pre and post assessment. First graders also engaged in Socratic discussions at Seacliff School. The pre-assessment looks a little different than the third grade pre-assessments in terms of quantity, but their ideas are just as profound for that age level. I communicated well when I learned from my friends. It was a post-assessment reflection. As a full elementary team, what we're looking at in our SVO work is to continue to explicitly teach the skills and dispositions of the SVOs, but then to move into students creating and using learning progressions in the areas of thinking and communication specifically, and really owning the SVOs not only inside of school, but with intentionality and independence in everything they do in their extracurriculars and outside of school. Thank you very much.
Good?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for that detailed and wonderful presentation. It really was wonderful to hear what was happening in the schools, but to also see the analysis of the data. I like how you put together both the testing, but also, you know, focused on the shared valued outcomes, and I love the pre and post assessments with that. And I'm gonna, if you have nothing else, I'm gonna open up to the board and see if there's questions or comments from the board for our presenters. No, it was quite full, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very full.
It was terrific.
Great job.
So thank you all. It was really terrific.
But it really goes to show you how the work that's been done thus far has really been so instrumental in building a strong foundation for what's next in the work. So, good work.
Yes, very good work.
Yeah,
thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you. Okay. What happened? Oh, okay, thank you. Now we're going to move on to LAC. Deb, thank you to our administrators. You wanted to tell them?
Yeah, you guys,
Yeah.
by all means, feel free to
Yes,
to go.
to go home. Thank you very all.
Somebody help Anna, please.
Well, we'll see. I think it's all right. Oh, there you go. And then what do I push here? Just advance? Okay. Got it. Seems pretty straightforward. Thanks. Let's see. Hello.
Hi, Deb.
Thanks for having me tonight. I'm just going to give you a quick update. I know it's a full night. Have a lot to say, but I'm going to try to condense it down and just get to the most important status right now. LAC had our first organizational meeting of the school year in September, and our first working meeting last week. In that working meeting, we focused on our major activity for the 2017-18 school year, which is going to be legislative night. That will be here at the high school Wednesday, January 24th at 7 p.m. I have to do a little bit of an advertisement here. We first hosted legislative night 2 years ago. At this night, we invite our state senator, our state assembly members that represent this school district, and the county legislator for this area. Legislative night is a unique and valuable opportunity for our community. Not many, and in fact, I don't know of any other school district that does this. We get all of our state legislators in an intimate setting, and we're able to share our values, our concerns, our needs with them, and we can make clear to these decision makers how we want them to represent us in Albany. It's direct access to our state legislators all at once, and our senator, Senator Marcelino, is the chair of the Senate Education Committee. As such, he has considerable power with regard to educational legislation and especially funding. So, with a few folks here, mark your calendars and bring a friend on January 24th at 7 p.m.
If it snows, it's going to be a week later on the 31st. Okay, so that's my advertisement. In our first working meeting, we began our preparations for legislative night, and we started with what are our goals? How are we going to feel successful on January 25th? What do we need to do to be successful? So we came up with 3 goals. We want to have robust attendance. The first legislative night, we had about 100 folks, which we thought was good. It doesn't look great in the auditorium, though. We'd like to have more people. We'd like to ensure, our second goal, that the entire community is represented, the whole community is represented in the questions and the remarks made that night. We'd like to ensure our questions are answered. So we took these 3 goals to frame how we're going to approach this problem, how we're going to start to work on this. We created 5 work streams to execute the night. The first 4 are pretty self-explanatory, and they're just sort of, the nuts and bolts of getting it done. Speakers, am I on there yet? Yeah, speakers, corresponding and coordinating with the legislative offices, logistics, lights, sound, the room, who sits where, that kind of thing. Issues and questions. This gets back to that second goal of ensuring that the entire community is represented. We want to make sure that we have a lot of thoughtful, pointed questions ready to go as soon as the night starts, so we want to do some research in advance. We want to reach out to all segments of our community and ask them for their input, make sure they have plenty of opportunities to let us know what's on their mind, those questions, and then we want to research those questions to make sure that we couldn't get the answer on the internet, that we're really asking meaningful questions and we're going to get meaningful answers and be able to give our legislators the heads up. We're going to ask you not just about New York American Water, we're going to ask you this about it. So 4th, promotions and communications, to make sure everybody in our community is sure that they have January 24th marked off in their calendars. They're doing nothing else. It's not the Super Bowl. There's nothing else going on. We could always walk if it snows. And the 5th work stream is new this year, and we've called it Preparing the Community. And this is where we've spent the most time planning, and it's where I'd like to spend the rest of the presentation with you guys. Preparing the community goes to all 3 of the goals, but certainly the attendance and participation, one of them. When we started talking about the attendance piece, every single person on LAC said, we got involved because we ended up at a board meeting, at a school board meeting at some point. Whether it was curiosity or concern or somebody dragged us, we ended up at a school board meeting, and whatever we heard, however we were engaged, we wanted to be more involved. So we see this as sort of ground zero for getting people involved. I think maybe you guys have had that experience as well. So we decided that we would ourselves take something we're going to call the School Board Challenge. School Board Meeting Challenge. And so what we're going to try to do, this is after tonight, there are 4 board meetings between now and legislative night. Just 4 meetings, that's it, right?
it.
Not that much. It's doable, right? We can go to those. Maybe not all of them. So we said at least 2. Everybody on LAC can make at least 2 of those meetings, right? And they can bring somebody with them. We've got a lot of LAC people here tonight. We've got Jen Lamont, we got Lisa Vizza, we got Andrea Macari, we had Danielle Fawcett. So, we did all right tonight. I think some of these other people might be here because of them too. So we're starting that. And we'd like to spread that idea of taking a challenge and trying to come to these 4 meetings, there are only 4, and bring somebody with you. We'd like to ask Danielle to take it to some of the student organizations and see if some of the students can get their parents to come. Come to one of the 4, not too hard. We'd like to take it to the PTOs and the PCAs and the SCAs and some other community organizations and just see this idea. Could you make 1 or 2 in preparation to understand what the issues are, how the process works, to get a little bit more engaged so that when our legislators show up here, that great opportunity we have, this direct time with the people that make decisions that affect how our kids live out each day in school, can you take a couple hours between now and January to get prepared for that? So that's one of the things. The second thing we'd like to do is we'd like to host a film screening. That's a great way to start a conversation. We've identified a great film called Backpack Full of Cash. Anybody heard of it? About privatizing public education, about funding public education. Funding public education is a great entry issue because it helps people understand all the other kind of really nerdy, wonky, convoluted issues like TRS reserve funds and tax cap modifications and unfunded mandates. So it's a great kind of starter issue. This particular film focuses on a couple districts in New York. Not this one, but it does have some New York districts in it. I think it's going to cost a little bit of money to put on, but I think it might be a good vehicle to get the word out, get people engaged, and get the community prepared to participate in January and forward. So we'd like to look at that. We'd also like to, we're started already to write what we're calling issue briefs. These are quick one-page summaries of the issues we've been working on and continue to work on. So that we have something to hand out. Each one at the end of it would have a call to action to remind people about legislative night, 7 o'clock, January 24th. And we could help people get up to speed on some of these wonky, convoluted issues a little bit more quickly. So we'd like to do that too. And let's see, where am I now? LAC Facebook page. Facebook is a proven channel to reach a lot of members in our community, and it could be very useful for LAC, as CASA has found as well. My idea for a LAC Facebook page would be that it is a posting page only, posting things that have been approved by the board and published on the district website. We would post things there, event warning, or event notifications, that kind of thing. No comments, no responses, just posting and sharing. That would be it. After that, we'd like to attend as many community organization events that we can to hand out these issue briefs with the call to action to come to legislative night on Wednesday, January 24th at 7 p.m. Great opportunity. So we're going to try, we have in our organizational meeting in September, we organized by function. So we have a small team of people that's dedicated to going to these events, that's doing outreach. That's one of our functions, is outreach. And then finally, with all that stuff going on, we'd like to make sure that our local press, Tim and others, cover what we're doing to promote awareness now, and also legislative night on January 24th at 7 p.m. So that's all I have right now. There's more detail behind all of this, to be sure, but I wanted you guys to know what we've been up to, what we're planning, and get any kind of feedback or guidance or suggestions or possibly more work from y'all. Thank you.
Thank you. Deb, thank you for that extensive and full coverage of what you've been doing in LAC. I've been attending the meetings. I'm sorry I missed the last one, but it's wonderful how you've shifted and engaged the entire group together. I think that's really working well.
We got a great team.
Yes. Thank you all.
Yeah.
So can I...
$10.
I was going to open up to questions. Yes, please.
Deb, since legislative action night is really for all the issues that the community is confronting, and I think many members of the community think it's just education focused, how are you going to make people aware that it's water and everything else? It's the work that CASA is doing. All of this is covered under legislative action night.
We're going to tell them that.
Okay.
I mean, I think that's absolutely what it comes down to. It's sponsored by the school district. It's another incredible thing that the school district does for our community, because strong schools build strong communities, and this is part of it. We're all in it all together. It all is connected. Yeah, absolutely.
Marianne?
So 2 things. I apologize. I also missed the last meeting. I'm same place as Tony. But I was just thinking, as you were naming people off, we do have Tom Suozzi as a local congressman. Has anyone extended an invitation to him? If not, I'm happy to do so.
Brilliant idea. Thank you. We'll take you up on it.
Okay, I'll text him. Also, if we think we're not going to get such a good response with the auditorium. You know, the auditorium is large, right? So maybe we should look at Glenwood Landing or Seacliff and make it a more intimate feel for the community, so that they're closer to their legislators and it's a more sort of casual. I mean, the Glenwood Landing's auditorium is beautiful. It was just redone.
Yeah, it's really great.
It's really nice, and
the
it might
acoustics
be,
are much better as well.
right. I think it might give people and the legislators more of a communication and rapport with the community.
Do you know how many people that holds? We're
I
looking
don't.
to, you know.
How much?
350.
350.
Olivia says. And you know, that's where they have the senior play every year. It's always a great little forum.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a better size because,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, if we double our numbers, then it feels nice there, right? Then it feels like we are.
Well, it was a challenge. I mean, we've held a meeting there every year, and it was, the acoustics can be a challenge for a speaking event, but we just had our board meeting there, and it was so much better with the seats being redone and the way it was redone. I don't think we'd have that you know, challenge of volume, of voice and acoustics.
Yeah, the
So,
echo.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a great idea.
it is. It's a great idea.
It's narrower, so it looks less
Yeah.
Empty.
vacant.
Yeah. So we haven't put anything out about
It's
this yet.
it's in the calendar.
And it says the high school, but that's easy enough.
Yeah, that's easy enough to change. We haven't put out invitation. You know, like we just
Right.
met last Wednesday, so
Right. So
yeah,
you'll-
we haven't done anything yet.
You'll
we'll
have to check with Bridget
Yeah.
and see if it's available and if it's okay with them. But I think it would be just a more intimate forum and a different place for it.
Yeah, I think so too. Good. Okay. Dave.
Just a couple things. Number one, the reorganization around task instead of topic, I think is terrific. It's a big committee, but you wouldn't want to have subcommittees. But if people are more focused on their specific activities, it functions like a subcommittee without going through the extra layer of unnecessary, I don't say bureaucracy, but having duplicative work. So I'm very happy about that. With the board meeting attendance challenge, just curious, usually challenges have some sort of something at the end. So not that attending isn't a reward in and of itself. There aren't always
There were
cookies,
cookies
tonight. One thing I just was thinking in reading this before we got here was that in past years we have had a moderator ask the questions, which I know we need to have. But it's possible that for those folks who become, who attend this large number, that perhaps a reward if we felt comfortable that they weren't going to, spontaneously embarrass themselves and the legislators with weird questions, to be able to ask questions directly of the legislators. That might be something that could be a small reward for those folks who attend.
That is a really interesting idea. Are you talking about like a separate time after or before or something?
I'm saying during the event we're going to be asking questions.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
possibly, even if they just had a chance to come to the podium and read that question, that's an
Oh,
opportunity.
I see. Yes, I see. That
For
would
members
be
of the community to speak directly to the legislators, I think, is a small thing, but it's nice for the event to have different voices, perhaps, and also a way to recognize those folks who did take you up on your challenge.
Got it. That's kind of a cool idea.
You would have to, though, be careful, Dave. The reason why we do it with a moderator is because once you let someone up there, they don't have to ask the question that they've submitted, that's been screened and approved, because I think cookies are a better idea.
It could be dicey, but it was something.
We do have, like, within LAC, there's a little, we're keeping track. There's a competitive thing going
Oh,
on there.
good.
But the other people, I'm not sure how much we're going to embrace it yet. So if you have ideas around that or incentives, that would be great. But, I'll come up with something.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, Sarah.
You are going to let us know who wins the Interlac board
for
meeting
sure.
challenge. And
No pressure, folks. Lisa's getting big points for tonight, but there's still 4 more meetings.
And I just want to say, it seemed to me everyone was reaching for their calendars. They really wanted to put, LAC in Legislative Action Night on their phones right now, and I didn't want people to be shy. But you've got to tell us when it is. So we can put it down. I'm going to put mine in now.
January 24th, 7 p.m. January 24th,
How did she already know? That's crazy. Okay, January 24th. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm a good listener. I'm a good listener.
Oh my, now we're getting punchy. Okay.
Yeah, we're good. Thank
Yeah.
you guys for listening
Thank
and all
you
your
so
great
much.
suggestions. I really
And
appreciate
thanks to the
it.
members who came. Appreciate
Thank you.
it.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Might we entertain comments from the public now rather than the end? The hour is late,
Do we
just in
have
case
another one?
anyone
Oh,
is.
We do at the end.
Yeah,
So
we could
let's
do
end.
it now if
Better- I mean,
everyone's
just-
in agreement. Is everyone-
Just
Comments from
see
the
if anyone
public?
else wants to say anything, not to have to wait until the, okay?
Sure, please. Sure, absolutely.
Is that why we do it after? Okay, well then.
It's fine, it's fine, it's fine.
I have to find it. Lisa Vizza, Glenhead. I noticed one of the action items referred to a extracurricular, oh, here it is.
What item?
It's action item D.
D?
And I'm not questioning the donation, but I was interested to see that there is a North Shore High School music tour / performance extracurricular club. Is this new? A club for extracurricular,
I don't think it's new. I think it's just the tour. It's just the tour.
okay. No, because it said a club, so that gave me the impression that there's a high school club that is funded.
I don't believe, it's just the name of it, it's the tour itself.
Okay. No, because calling it a club inferred to me that it was an established club at the high school that would have some discretionary funding. So it's just the tour.
I don't think so. I think it's just the tour. Yeah.
You see what I mean? The
Yeah.
description? Okay. Okay. If it's,
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing if it did exist, because then it kind of gives it some teeth for kids to participate and not have families have to contribute in such a huge way to the tours that they elect to go on.
I know.
So, yeah.
two
Okay.
going.
That was just a question. It was interesting. Thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Anyone else? Tim?
Tim Madden, Seacliff. I know Dr. Giurizzo said at the during the superintendent's report, he mentioned the middle school attendance policy, and I think you said
Athletic
that
attendance,
the
yeah.
athletics policy, and you said that the athletics director said that it's not the policy. Is that so? Does that mean the policy, it was repealed, it was rescinded? Did it go back to the policy committee? Because it is stated online as the policy. And that's why I'm confused about the way you worded it.
So the attendance policy that exists right now around the absences
Right.
applies to varsity and JV sports, not middle school.
But it states in two places on the district website
I'll take
that the policy applies to middle school. And the way it was worded, it was as if it was never the policy, when it is the policy that's stated in the book, and it was changed to that in February of 2017.
I'll take care of the online piece, but I spoke with Don. It is not in practice what happens at the middle school.
It actually, that's not true. I mean, there actually is, for the track and the track team, there was a community member who was here who said that his daughter could not participate in track because they limited the absences. So it may be that it's not supposed to be the practice, and I'm sure that's what the athletic director told you, it's not the practice.
Right.
But I think we need to check, based upon the comments of community members, if that is actually what is happening on a team-by-team basis.
I will do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Okay. Anybody else? All right. Let's move on to action item C, which is personnel. Could I have a motion? Could I have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Action item D, acceptance of donation from Donald and Perry, is it Krug, to the North Shore High School? Could I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? A big thank you. All in favor? Action item E, approval to dispose of inventory. Could I have a motion? And I have a second. Any questions? All in favor? Action item F, approval of change orders. Could I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second.
Second.
Comments or questions? I have one. Go ahead, Dave. You
Just
go
a quick
first.
question. So this is from a durability issue. They decided that concrete would be more long-term durable than the asphalt that was there and the drainage pipe?
When we put the bid together, we didn't know that, we'll get good prices. So when we knew that we had good prices and some was less, because we're only going to do asphalt. So when it got to that point and we're looking at it, we said, it will be cost effective for us to extend the life. So let's go to concrete. So we decided.
Short-term, little more, long-term, much greater value.
Yes.
All right, great.
Any other questions? That was my question as well. All in favor? Action item G, approval of agreement with Strategic Educational Advantage. Could I have a motion? I have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor? Action item, what, did I forget? Oh,
No, we didn't ask who's against.
Yeah.
oh, I'm sorry. Against. Okay, so did you get that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Sorry, I didn't get to hit.
No, I'm glad you told me because I didn't see. Okay. Action item H, which is approval of agreement for related services with Family Pediatric Home Care. Could I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions? All in favor? Oh, Sarah.
We're gonna
Sorry.
just, like, send up
Sorry.
fireworks or,
Yeah.
So, Olivia, if you don't mind, sorry. So this and the next couple date back to July 1. I think these are services that are happening here. I don't think this is the situation where it's going on in another district and we're dependent on the other district to give us the contract. So is this a situation where we didn't know we would need these contractors, or it was difficult to get the contract together?
A little bit of both, because we have to be going back and forth with our lawyers to straighten it out, and that's what caused the delays.
Do we know if they've been doing work in the district though already, or?
I'm not sure about that. I have to check, but I think they have.
Okay.
Okay, anyone else? All in favor? Okay. Action item I, approval of agreement for skilled nursing services with Family Pediatric Home Care. Could I have a motion?
Motion.
And a second? And questions, comments? All in favor? Okay. Action item J, approval of agreement with Daniel Armstrong. Could I have a motion? And a second? Any comments, questions? All in favor? Action item K, acceptance of donation from Paul Spivak to the North Shore High School. Could I have a motion? And a second?
Second.
Comments or questions? I have a question. What is this? Is this just for the robotics team? Yeah? It's really generous. Thank
It
you
is.
very
It's
much.
very much so.
It is very generous. All in favor? Thank you. Okay. We had another comment. Anybody else want to make a comment from the public? No. Okay. Let's move on to old business. I'm going to start out the old business by talking about the water company issue. Did you get, we were discussing it, and thank you, Danny, for bringing that up last week. Although we had been meeting with our local civics organization. So what we were talking about was having sort of a regular update on where we are at each board meeting with the issues with the water company. And I've asked Sarah if she would, like we did last year with the superintendent search, if she could give an update at each meeting as to where we stand, what's happening. I know that I saw a sign today about the protest that they're going to do on the 4th of November at the water tower. It was the first time I had seen a sign for it. It was at Gemelli's. So, Sarah, if you had anything to add today, but I'm going to
No,
ask you
I
going
think you're
forward.
absolutely right. I think, obviously, the superintendent search last year was an important issue, and so we made the point of doing regular updates and putting it early in the meeting, so to have as much of an audience as possible. And I think the water issue rises to that too, in terms of the information we have and the actions that the school district can take, and addressing as many of the concerns that the community has as we can in as straightforward a way. I think is important, and I'm happy to do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody else have old business? No? New business. Anybody have new business?
Move to adjourn.
Wait, I have one
What?
little thing before I promise.
One thing.
So in your board recognition, I did forget to note that Senator Marcelino sent a proclamation for the board
Oh.
in recognition of Board Recognition Week.
That's
So
very
it is
nice.
long. I will not read it all, but we will.
Oh, very nice. No.
In the district
We can
office,
all
but-
take turns looking at it.
Thank you to the senator for that.
Yes, thank you, Senator Marcelino. Okay, that's it? Could I have a motion to adjourn? And a second? We're good. Thank you all.